Hi, my name is Jazmin Stevenson, and me and my classmate Sydney Baldwin did a PowerPoint presentation on methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is a powerful, highly addictive stimulant that affects the central nervous system. Common names for methamphetamine that you might hear include blue, crystal, ice, speed, and more. You can use methamphetamine by smoking, swallowing the pill form, snorting, or injecting the powder that has been dissolved in water or alcohol. Methamphetamine, this is the process of neurotransmission. The process of neurotransmission starts with the dendrites, which are a short branch extension of a nerve cell. So the process of neurotransmission starts with the dendrites. The dendrites receive neural messages, then the soma, which is the cell body, determines whether or not the message is worth firing. If the message is worth firing, the axon, which is a long thread-like part of a nerve cell, the axon will help the message travel to other dendrites in the neurons. This is the process of neurotransmission with methamphetamine. Dopamine is the main neurotransmitter affected by methamphetamine. Dopamine is the pleasure neurotransmitter. When something that we like happens, certain axon releases large amounts of dopamine. Dopamine attaches to receptors on dendrites of neighboring neurons and passes on the pleasure message. Dopamine is stored in neighboring neurons to save for later. What neurotransmitters are affected? Methamphetamine circulates itself from your bloodstream to your brain. It affects lots of brain structures, but the one it affects the most is dopamine. The chemical structure of the two are very similar. Since dopamine and methamphetamine are so similar, meth can affect the function of any neuron that contains dopamine, like serotonin and norepinephrine. Serotonin is a filter neurotransmitter which regulates your sleep and wake cycle, and norepinephrine contributes to blood pressure and heart rate and adrenaline. Effects crystal meth have on the central nervous system. Meth will decrease your gliogenesis, which are non-neural cells in the central nervous system. They maintain homeostasis from myelin and provide support and protection for neurons. The use of methamphetamine has been associated with increased damage and death to glial cells in a number of brain areas, particularly in the prefrontal cortex where attention, planning, abstract thinking, judgment, and ethic occur, etc. Also, meth on the central nervous system decreases your white matter. White matter is located on the axons, the signaling portions of the neurons, and as the white matter decreases, neurons become less efficient in transmitting their signals. This results in a number of function deficits. This is other effects of methamphetamine on the brain. Neurons usually recycle dopamine for later use, but meth uses large amounts of dopamine to continue the feeling of pleasure all day. This because meth, the high doesn't last for long, so in order for people to feel good, they just keep doing it all day, and this often leads to a crash that often leads to more use of meth to get that pleasure principle back. This is why some people, when they use meth, they stay in one spot. They don't eat a lot. People who have meth labs in their home and they have kids, their kids often, they don't pay no attention to their kids because they just keep wanting to get high since it doesn't last long. And also, I read an article that people who have meth labs in their home and they store the meth in their refrigerator, meth, it like spreads to your food. So say you have meth in your refrigerator and it spreads to, I read a story that this woman had her drugs in her refrigerator with her food, and it ended up spreading to the cheese somehow, and her 3-year-old son ate the cheese and he ended up dying. But other effects of methamphetamine on the brain, neurons usually recycle dopamine. I read that. But yeah, and also methamphetamine, it's highly explosive because of all the harsh chemicals they use in order to make it. They use lots of things like antifreeze, battery acid, drain cleaner, just lots of horrible things that you would never think that you would take on a regular day. And meth it has extreme powerful erotic effects, like increases in energy, feelings of invulnerability, and other psychoactive effects. Addiction and behavior. Using meth for a long time will fry your dopamine neurons. Scientists don't know of this damage, if this damage is permanent, but they know it can last a long time. Methamphetamine can also fry neurons that contain serotonin. Meth causes an increase in blood pressure. Using meth for a long time can also have a permanent damage to blood vessels in the brain. This can lead to strokes caused by bleeding in the brain. Meth causes you to be more active and awake. Also, loss of appetite, irritableness, and aggressive and paranoia. If I doubt anybody will walk into a meth lab or suspect a meth lab, but if you do, you leave, you report it. You don't touch anything, you don't inhale anything, you just leave and go report it. Ways to recognize a methamphetamine lab: it's an unusual smell like cat urine, pneumonia, acetone, or just strong chemicals. Glass cookware or stove pans containing a powdery residue. Shacks or cabinets with windows blacked out. Open windows vented with fans during the wintertime. Also, meth is getting rid of a meth lab is very expensive and dangerous because, like I said, they use very strong chemicals. So meth cookers, they can dump battery acid, solvents, and other toxic materials into rivers or the ground. Much of the waste is highly flammable and explosive. Like I said, 1 pound of meth produces 6 pounds of toxic waste. Even months after meth labs have been closed, chemical residue still remains, and the chemicals used in the manufacturing process can be corrosive, explosive, flammable, toxic, and possibly radioactive. And the chemicals that some of the meth cookers dump into the waters and the grounds and the sewers, this obviously can contaminate surface water, groundwater, and wells, and traces of chemicals can pervade the walls, drapes, carpets, and furniture of a laboratory site. I sponsored a little 32-second video clip on methamphetamine and what it does to the brain. And that's going to play in a little bit, but some other effects associated with methamphetamine use is movement issues from the damage that occurs to a number of neurons and white matter tracts in the brain is also associated with changes in motor functions, including reaction time, coordination, and very subtle and complex skills, and very basic training such as walking. Also, emotional control, psychological issues, memory, judgment, and problem solving, attention, everything just kind of throws off. Also, methamphetamine can cause cytoskeletal damage. The support system in the cells is obviously damaged by methamphetamine, and this can result in cellular collapse if the support structures are significantly damaged. I didn't say this, but obviously methamphetamine, it's a man-made substance. That's why people have home labs and they just add different things, and it also makes it dangerous to manufacture. Methamphetamine can burn your skin and eyes, and just simply breathing in the methamphetamine can send you right to the hospital. That's how strong it is. I'm sorry, 1 second. Methamphetamine changes your brain. Like I said earlier, when you do meth, the feeling of being high, it often stops. So often these feelings of pleasure are followed by unpleasant feelings called a crash that often leads to a person doing more of the drug. So if a person continues to use methamphetamine, they will have a difficult time feeling pleasure from anything. Imagine no longer enjoying your favorite food. Like I said earlier, they don't really eat like that. Or an afternoon with your friends. Even small amounts of methamphetamine can just affect you very quickly. Some of the me and Sydney, we used 3 different resources. One was the American Addiction Center.org/meth-treatment/effects on the brain and CNS, and the other one was teens.drugabuse.gov, and the third one was I'm sorry, the other one was I can't find it, but I will add it in the resources. Thank you so much. I hope you guys learned a lot.